The following presentation is brought to you live from Dallas, Texas, for the International Association of Square Dance Callers 26th Annual Convention. This is tape 21. Hook 'em, concern for our clients.
Pat, could I impose on you to maybe close that door, please? May I do that?
Is there 2 cords on this thing?
Yeah, it should be. Let's see. Microphones, they should both be on the same, I would think.
Hello.
Is it?
Can't hear it here, but that's all right.
I don't think it's going to turn up. This is as high as this one goes.
Yep.
Good morning, and we're very, very glad to have you here. I'll be quite honest with you. I was hoping that we'd have a bigger crowd this morning because this is one area. Our interest session is entitled Concern for Clients. It is one area that I think we are woefully lacking in people skills in general. Now, I'm not saying that about everybody. Sometimes I think when you come to a panel like this, the people that you need to be talking to aren't here. The people that already know that did. They came because they have an interest in it. Again, this panel is called Concern for Our Clients. And I'd like to begin by introducing our panelists. To my right are Martin and Terry Mallard from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I'd like to have you give them a nice hand, if you would. Together, they've provided over 40 years of dedication to their own square dance clubs and to square dancing in general. They've been active leaders not only in Saskatchewan, but in the whole of Canada. And in addition, they've been longtime members of CALLERLAB and currently serve on the Board of Governors. And our organization is really unique because here we have leaders from other countries on our board, which truly makes us an international organization. I see a lady from England over there. To me, that is something to really be proud of. Also, as a former chairman or past chairman, one of the things that we all fall into is we're very parochial in our views. I'm from the middle of the country, from Nebraska, and even though I work a winter program in Mesa, Arizona, I have the view of the Midwest of Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota. That was my view of almost everything that I did. When I became chairman, then I had calls not only from every part of the United States, but from countries. And it's a very eye-opening thing, and I would recommend all of us to not be too parochial in our views. So I'm glad to have these guys on our panel. My name, for the benefit of the tape, is Jerry Junck. I'm going to start this interest session, and we're going to be pretty informal with it. I'm going to start by addressing this topic, concern for our clients. Not everybody's going to like what I have to say because I'm going to be pretty vocal in my views as to where I think we have maybe our biggest deficiency in our calling skills. In this age when customer service is a top priority for commercial businesses, we should ask ourselves this question: are we, callers, showing enough concern for our clients, for our customers? Hopefully this session will be able to define what that means in square dancing. I think it means many things. Concern comes in many forms. To name a few, and these might seem small to some, but I think they're very big. Such things as knowing people's names, keeping track of birthdays and anniversaries, and making sure that dancers succeed in their dancing. These are just a few things we need to be aware of if we truly have a desire to show concern for our clients. My personal view, do we show enough concern for our clients? Sadly, I'm afraid that callers in general do a very poor job in this aspect of our activity. It is my personal view that a general lack of concern for dancers, and more especially, and maybe this is the point, more especially a lack of concern for new dancers is our shortcoming. And I think it's led us in a great way to the point we are now in the activity. Far too many callers share the view that their only responsibility begins and ends with the calling of the class or the dance. I feel that nothing could be further from the truth. The calling of a dance or class is only the mechanical and artistic part of a caller's responsibility. The mechanical and artistic part is the calling. But what about the social aspect? Do we have a responsibility there? I think we do. It is my belief if we're going to restore our activity to the place it once was, then we're going to have to make it more customer friendly. All of you are familiar with Walmart. Walmart probably does the best job of customer service I ever saw. And we had lots of stores around home that you'd try and take stuff back to, and boy, it just didn't happen. You bought it, you owned it. Walmart came in. You bring something back now, everybody takes it back. And they take it back with a smile. To the point that I bought a lawnmower from Walmart, if I can digress a second to show you what I mean by concern for your clients. I bought a lawnmower from Walmart, 3-4 years ago. And I paid $124 for it. Took it home, and I'm always gone, so Sharon always hires a kid around town to mow the lawn. Well, he mowed the sidewalk with it. And when he mowed the sidewalk with it, why, he bent the crank. So I took it back over to Walmart. A year later, it was in the fall, the last time we mowed, took it back over there, and I had the receipt, but I said, now, this is not a defective lawnmower. The kid bent the crank when he mowed the sidewalk. I'd like to have it repaired. He said, why don't you get a new one? I said, well, you know, didn't bring it here to return because, you know, it's not a defective mower. It's not your fault. The guy said, hey, Sam Walmart has a brother. All he does is fix up stuff we bring back and sell it. He makes millions doing it. Go pick you out a new one. I said, well, I really feel kind of bad about that. He said, that's what we do. Go get you a new one. So I did. The mowers went down. I got a brand new lawnmower and $6.17. On the way home, I told Sharon, I feel like I stole this lawnmower. That's what I mean by customer service. That's what I mean by customer service. If we're going to restore this activity where it once was, then I think we have to be more customer friendly. I sincerely do, and in talking with Martin and Terry, they do as well. I think there are other callers that do. Who's going to do the leading? Callers. You got to show people how to be customer friendly. It's going to take a change in attitude for callers to do that. I really think it is. First, I think callers have to make an honest and sincere effort to make everybody welcome at their dance. You need to arrive early enough so that you can greet people when they arrive. I think you need to be there, set up your equipment, make sure it's working first, and then be able to be at the door and greet people or have a cup of coffee or just walk around the floor to become accustomed to where you're at and to see these people and let them see you. How many times you see a caller or done it yourself, slid in 2 minutes before the dance, raced right through the hall, slapped your equipment up and said, all right, let's dance. And that's the only contact the people had with that caller all night. He never left the stage, never came down to visit with anybody. And when the dance was over, while everybody's eating lunch, he packed up his equipment, got in the car, and left. Is that customer friendly? No. No, it's not. And it's not what our activity's about. Our activity's about people. And when you have people, then you need to know them. And you need to make an effort to know them. They want to know you. That's why they came. And you don't have to tell them your life story. They don't want to know that. But they want to know that you're approachable, that you're someone they can visit with, that they can feel like you're a friend. People come to a dance to be entertained. They also come to enjoy an entertainer, I'll digress one more time and I'll quit doing it. We brought Charlie Pride into our town in 1984 when they had their centennial. It's a town of 4,000 people, and we have a college there, and we have 3,000 seats outdoor. They set him up on a football field on a big stage. And at that time, in 1986, we had no black people in town. Nobody had ever seen one around home. And I wondered how would Charlie Pride react to a small venue. I call a small venue 3,000 people. They sold 2 shows, sold it out, both shows. But how would a man who's used to 30,000 people react to a town of 4,000? It was the most wonderful experience I've ever seen an entertainer do. It was fabulous. He was there on time. He came out. He was happy. He sang all these songs. He sang them so well. And we had all these people around, and you've seen mothers be inventive. This mother, the stage was about 3 feet high. This mother brought her little girl, who was about 4 or 5, up on the grass there in front of the stage and had her stand there about 2 feet out from the stage. She got down on her back to take a picture backwards up, so she had her little girl in the picture with Charlie Pride. Now he's singing a song. He goes over at the edge of the stage and sat down, picked this little girl up, put her on his knee, and the whole crowd went, huh? And he had these people right there. Never talked to anybody. Had them right there. When the concert was over, he said, I realize we have a second concert, but all of you came to have an autograph, and you came to buy records. If you would like to buy one, I'll autograph them. When everybody has their autograph and their record, then we'll start the second show. Now that's Charlie Pride. He owed those people nothing. He'd already been paid. And I never forgot that. It's the neatest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, that's why he sells out every show. Customer friendly, you bet. We could learn from that, all of us. You need to arrive early enough so you can greet people, shake their hands, socialize. I think this applies both to the club caller and the traveling caller. I don't think it's any different for a traveling caller or a club caller at all. We're callers, as far as I'm concerned. We're all the same. Nothing makes people feel better about themselves than having the entertainer for the evening down on the floor. And it doesn't matter whether it's the club caller or the special caller, the guest caller, or the national caller, whatever. They want to know the caller. That's who they came to see. And they want to have a good time. And if he'll visit with them, then they feel better because of it. And then they come back. Concern for our clients, and this is the way I'm going to go on mine. Concern for our clients is absolutely essential for callers who teach lessons. My part of the session will deal with and address with issues that I think we need to look at when teaching new dancers. This is our foundation. This is where we grow from. This is where we have to be most aware of customer relations. Teaching new dancers is the single most important responsibility we have for any caller. It is also the only means through which we can perpetuate our activity. It's the only way we can perpetuate our activity. Furthermore, it is imperative that we make these new dancers feel welcome and a part of the activity as soon as possible when they begin lessons, as soon as possible. If not, we lose them. And believe it or not, we lose more than that. We lose their friends also. Maybe not this year, but next year when they say, well, we tried that last year, but I'll tell you what, that's a cold, icy atmosphere. We're not going to do that again. So you lose their friends as well. And I feel this is the area where we as callers have to take some responsibility. How can we improve in this area? Where do we start? Well, in actuality, I think it starts probably before the club even begins recruiting for the new class. I think it falls to the club caller to provide the leadership to first convince the club members of the importance of recruiting. I think you have to convince them that it's important. Second, I think you have to motivate the members to then go out and actively recruit. You have to motivate them. Give them a reason for doing it. Third, I think you have to instill in the club membership the mentality of accepting the lack of expertise in new dancers and have an empathy for them once they graduate rather than disdain. And we've all seen that. And I think the club caller's responsibility is to develop that mentality for the club, to have an empathy for new dancers when they first come out. Finally, I think it's the caller's responsibility to show a passion and a sincere desire to teach these new people. Teaching a class is not easy, as anybody knows, and far too many callers view this lesson as a chore rather than a challenge. I think classes are the neatest thing in the world. It just kind of intrigues me to see if I can get these people to do more than they thought they could. And to me, that's just kind of like a test. And I enjoy it. But not every guy does. One of the things that disappointed me most while I was chairman is that 2 years, I made a big push for lessons. And every single dance that I had a caller at, I asked, what are you doing for lessons? You know, the most common response I got, and you won't believe this, well, if you heard my speech, you will, said, I've paid my dues, let somebody else do it. That was the most common reply I had. It was also the most disappointing thing that I had. It's not a chore, it's a treat. Because, I mean, you can make these people part of our activity. Now, we've done the recruiting, we've convinced the club members, we've done all of that. Now, what about the first night of lessons? What should the caller do? There's no perfect answer, obviously. Every caller is different. But we do need to be more dancer-friendly. First of all, new dancers are engaging in a completely foreign activity for the first time. And many are actually afraid. They're afraid. They're not afraid of square dancing, but afraid of looking like a fool. I can't do that. Man, look at those people. They're doing all this stuff. I can't do a square through. Never heard of it. Not only that, I don't know if I'm going to like it. I don't think people are nearly as afraid of square dancing as they are making mistakes, especially as they get older. I don't think people are hard to teach in that they're unable to learn. But I think as we get older, we're very much more embarrassed by mistakes, and we're more timid. And that makes them harder to teach. I think you need to take that away. I don't think we place near enough importance on this fear factor. People don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be frustrated. This is for entertainment. First few nights are vitally important to the success of any class. You need to make these people welcome. Again, to do that, the caller needs to arrive early, have his equipment set up, his lesson plan ready, and know what he's going to do, and greet each person as they arrive. Now, you can't hug them. They're not used to hugging yet. But you need to ask their names and try to make an effort to learn them as soon as possible. At a car salesman used to be a square dance caller. Bless his heart, he's gone now. He told me when I was 18, starting out calling, said, you need to learn these names. I said, I can't. And he said, then you better quit. I said, why? Because he said, that's all people have that's their own. He said, that's all they've got that's their own, is their name. I said, make an effort to know it. And he worked with me on how to learn that. And I'm not great, but I'm pretty good at it. And I take pride in it, in knowing people's names. And I'll ask them a couple, 3 times. And if I follow it up, then I ask them again. I'm not embarrassed to do that. Knowing names is an important part of showing concern for your clients. You ever have Flippo walk by and not be able to call you by name? How does it make you feel? He's the best I've ever seen. He's great. Secondly, unless the stage is not high off the floor, I prefer to set up on the floor for lessons. For 2 reasons. First of all, it doesn't put me above the dancers, puts me on the same plane. I don't look down on them. Secondly, I do most of my teaching with demonstrations. I get on the floor myself. doesn't take the time to get off the stage and do my demonstrations. And I think then the dancers begin to regard you as part of the group rather than a teacher. And I like that. I like them to be very familiar with me. It greatly reduces intimidation, in my personal opinion. Then, as the lessons progress, can you have fun? Yeah. Lessons are fun. They don't care what's on the list or how many calls are on our list. They got these 10 calls. Hey, give them to us again. Let's see if we can do it. They don't care. They just want to have fun with them. That's what they know. Teaching is exciting and fun. Make it that way. Make it fun. Hey, you got to be there anyway. Why not have a good time? Eliminate the frustration. People leave because they're frustrated. That's the only reason they leave, in general. You frustrate them, and you can see it in their eyes. You just take a look on that floor, and you know instantly. If they're having a bad night, don't teach anything. Why? They're having a bad night, or you're having a bad night, which is probably more closer to the truth. Don't teach them anything. Let them dance what they know. You're in no hurry. And let them play with what they know. Remember, and keep this in mind. You know, we always have people saying, well, we got so many lessons to do this, or so many weeks to do this. Remember, the new dancers aren't in a hurry. We are. We are. They're not. They don't care. Okay. We don't have to be. We want them to stay in the activity. Don't be in a rush. We want them to share our passion for the activity. If you enjoy the class, so will they. Hopefully the club will have participated and made the effort to know the new dancers as well. If so, a big part of retaining these dancers after class has already been done for you. If that club members will come in and dance with this class, a big part of that retention problem is solved. But next comes graduation. And I'm about finished here. Graduation time to me is, if not as important as the first night of lessons, it's maybe more so. How many people have said, well, we graduated 25 couples, but you know, we only had 3 or 4 that came back. They did not come back because they didn't enjoy the activity. I don't think. While graduation time is an exciting event for new dancers, at the same time it's very traumatic, and I don't think we think about this. If there ever is a time to show concern for new dancers and sincerely wish to retain them for the club, then this is the time the caller really has to step up and take a leadership role. You got to make the club aware of the fact that the new dancers are having misgivings about themselves. They've been in this class, and they're happy, and they're comfortable, and they're having a good time. But when class ends, and they have to start dancing with the club, it's just like starting over. It's just like starting over for them. Oh gosh, am I good enough to dance with the club? I mean, we're dancing with the club. Am I good enough? And again, you have that intimidation factor. Many of them don't come because they're afraid. We need to recognize that, and we need to stop it. We can. This is an easy fix. First, I would suggest different members of the club be assigned the responsibility of taking the new dancer to their first few dances. Assign some club members, call, hey, we'll drive by and pick you up. We're going over to the Rebel Rousers or whatever. Uh-oh.
That was just the Rebel Rouser.
I think that was a serious breakage problem out there.
That's your dinner, John.
Yeah, dinner might be dropped. First, I suggest members take new dancers to their first dances. And then it's a friendly face, and they know how to get there. They don't know where this hall is. They walk into a hall, they don't know the people. They're very nervous about it. I don't think you need to take them to a month-long set of dances, but I think their first 2 or 3 dances, especially away from the club, take them. Say, hey, why don't you ride along with me? Our whole club's going to go, and we'll pick you up, and Helen and Red, they're going to pick up this other couple, and assign people to do that. Get them out and get them going, but get them going with you, especially if you're doing a dance in another club. say, hey guys, come over and visit, bring our new members, let's get them started here so they get started coming over this club too, and then this club will come back and dance with us. And make them be a part of the activity. I honestly believe we lose far more dancers because of the intimidation of a new setting than we ever leave because they didn't like the activity. I just don't think we have considered the emotional impact this has on people. Classes are like farming. We plant a crop, nurture and cultivate it, harvest it, and put the crop in the bin. But it shouldn't stop there. That crop is no good if we let it spoil in the bin. It's no good at all.
It's like herb planting chicken.
Yeah, like herb planting chicken, same thing. The second part of showing concern for new dancers has to come from the callers. Not a lot of callers are going to like what I have to say here. And as I've gotten older, I maybe say it a little more. Many callers will disagree with my philosophy on this point, but I firmly believe in this. I think we as callers call material far too difficult for new dancers to have anything more than minimal expectations of success. Minimal expectations of success. Now, and I take some heat for this. The reason being that a class is an exposure. They haven't really learned those calls. They've been exposed to those calls. We need to be aware of that. It's an exposure. It's a time to become familiar, but they certainly haven't become proficient. And we need to be aware of that and be friendly to those people, and then to make the club members aware that, hey guys, we've got to give these guys some time to let them enjoy the activity, to let them know what's going on. I just hate it when I hear a club graduated so many dancers in the spring, and they're just doing really swell, and then to hear, well, we're doing a plus workshop all summer. They don't need a plus workshop, they need a mainstream workshop. That's what they need. They need to get comfortable with these calls because the class is just an exposure to them. I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are. It's still just an exposure. That's why they know Alaman left really well and spin chain through not very well. So last night they learned, they got one tip, a spin chain through. You graduate next week, they go to a dance, first call out of the caller's mouth, spin chain through. Oh, dad, yum, we did that one time last week. That's an exposure. And you cannot expect more than minimal success. That to me is customer relations and concern for your clients. It also falls to both club and traveling callers, maybe traveling callers more. We have to take blame for thoughtlessness in this way. We try to call to the best of the ability rather than level that floor out and let everybody dance. I look at it this way, and I take heat for this. Everybody paid to dance. Nobody paid to watch me call. And I don't mind taking heat for that. Anytime you break dancers down, especially new dancers, it destroys what little confidence they had. And I firmly believe, I heard Jack Lazary say this years ago when I first came to CALLERLAB, and I'll quote him, I believe we, as callers, have driven more dancers out of this activity than ever left because they didn't enjoy it. I absolutely, categorically believe that. These are just some of my thoughts. I don't mean to be harsh, but I do mean to be honest. And these are my opinions, and maybe they're not shared by you. But I think we have to be more concerned for our clients. To do what I outlined above will take a passion for the activity and a great deal of dedication from callers. I'm sorry to say I don't see as much of that passion and dedication as I used to. I do think it's possible, and I think we need to rechannel it. I'm really pleased to see this as a very happy convention. I've thoroughly enjoyed this convention from a personal standpoint. But I think it's vitally important for us callers and CALLERLAB to rethink our fascination with complexity. We need to be different, not difficult, and actively display a much greater concern for our clients. And I thank you, and I'll turn this over to Martin Mallard.
You know, it's hard to follow a guy that says everything you believe. I have to say that to start with. When we exchanged our articles email-wise, I read Jerry's and I read mine and said, my God, we're going to say the same thing, the same way, the same spice. But I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, as a club caller, which I am, I travel a little bit, I find it very, very hard to separate how do you get a dancer and how do you keep them. Because the process of keeping a dancer starts by getting them. The very first time you have a dancer in your hall, you start the process of keeping them. But strangely enough, we have found that the method that you use to get them is sometimes the hooking method. That's where you start. And I've started by sort of reviewing the things that Terry and I do and our callers in our area. We're very fortunate. We have a group of callers who are not just callers. They're friends with each other. They're friends with the dancers. We're a family, the whole darn bunch of us. Our association works as dancers, callers. We attend the meetings. We speak as individuals, but we also speak as groups. So for us, we are what we're talking about. Our callers live what they preach within our association, within our clubs. We have 4 callers who do the beginner classes. And we think nothing of saying to our beginners, the first night, if you're not comfortable tonight with what we've done, there is another group that you can go to, and because you're dancing with this group, you can guest there anytime you want. If you want to reinforce something, go over to Ken Wilkinson, go over to Guy Bellevue, and I'm using their names. I'm proud to do it. They each run beginner classes on different nights. They do the same thing. So our beginners start right at the very beginning as part of the Square Dance family. They know that there are 4 groups in our city that they can visit right now, and we encourage them to do so. Unfortunately, I call too often to take them, but the other callers do take them to the clubs. They take them to the classes. They encourage them to come. I'm away right now. Our beginner group is dancing in another group, and we don't care if they don't dance with us when they graduate. None of us do, as long as they dance. And that's hard to get across to callers. Callers are very possessive of their dancers. How many of you talk about your dancers? They're not yours. They're in people. They have their likes and they have their dislikes. So actually in our handout here, we have quite a bit on recruitment. I can just talk a little bit about it if you don't mind sort of rehashing what you've probably heard from everybody else, but maybe it's a little different. We firmly believe that you have to know who, where, when, and how you're going to get your dancers. What is going to be your target for the people you recruit? What age group do you want? What's your reason for going after that? And we look at teenagers. We have a good school program in our area. It works. But so far we have never recruited anybody from the teenage group into the married group because it hasn't been going long enough. We look at the 20s to 40s. Oh, you've heard all the reasons why we don't recruit from there. Family, working jobs, the whole bit. We are actually targeting the 45 to 65 age group in our city. And we're having reasonable success with it, although we've had a few surprises this last year. I was quite surprised at one of the comments that came back to me. We had a large dance for beginners. We had a good turnout, but they all just drifted off to their various classes they were going to. None of us got a large class, but if we put them all together, we would have a large class. And for this reason, next year, I am not going to teach a class. We're going to give the dancers the chance to be larger in their class, because that's one of the things we need to have. We have to look at our classes and say, if you've only got 2 squares, it's hard to instill with those 2 squares what square dancing is all about. I mean, they're maybe dancing in a hall that would hold 10 squares, and they're rattling along around like peas in a pod. Terry and I are very fortunate. We have a hall in our home. And whether we have 2 squares or 7 squares, which it will hold at maximum, they have a home atmosphere to dance in. So we've already beat one thing. They're dancing in our home. They're guests in our home, and we treat them that way. So we're looking at the age group that is close to retirement. Their kids have left. Their house is paid for. Their car is paid for. They've got a little bit of leisure time, so we go out after them, and we get them from church groups, recreation centers, service clubs, over 50 condo communion style people. Those are the real targets. But there is one problem because we live in the northern part of our country, and we're starting to see this in our beginner classes. Early retirement. We're seriously thinking, and Jerry will really love this statement, we're going to start a snowbird class for beginners. These people will start dancing in September, dance till January. Jerry gets them when they go down there. So he's going to get some half-baked beginners who will probably join his beginner class or another caller. We know who are teaching the classes in Mesa or wherever they're going to go, and we're going to refer them down there. Hopefully, Jerry will be happy when he gets them. He may throw them out the door. They're not trained enough. We don't know. Because we don't know the program that Jerry teaches, but we're going to do the best that we can that they will still fit within the CALLERLAB program, and at Christmas time they should be just about through the basics list, starting into the mainstream list, and depends, as you know, you've always got Charlie in a club that holds the club back. But that's the first thing that we look at. So this group is a new target for us. We'll let you know how it works out. What's the tools you use? Well, we all use flyers. Some of our flyers are included in here. Maybe you can flash them, Jerry, as we go along or something to that, or Terry can do this. We use a thing that's a little different. I've never seen any other group use it. We call it Join Us for a Night of Fun. We have had a few connotations happen with this because of the changes in society. When you hand somebody a card, Join Us for a Night of Fun, they go, is this one of these key exchange clubs or what is it? But we use it on the back of our business card too, so that if somebody is interested in square dancing, we put a night when we're dancing and so forth, when the class is going, we fill it in, because that's what it's designed to do, and hand them our business card, and we've had a fair bit of good jobs, a good response on it. That's the one right there, and that goes on the back of our business card. And that, by the way, if you want to use it, all you have to do is take it over to a photocopy outfit, and they have the cards there that fit that, and you come out with a business card all done. We also have used newspaper advertisements, but one of the problems I find with newspaper advertisements, they read it once and then wrap the garbage in it. So it doesn't get the coverage that you want. The only time that we've had success with newspaper advertisement is if you offer something free. They will clip that coupon and use it, particularly if they're in the 55 to 60 age group. That's when the coupon collection starts. If you go down to Mesa, you never see a snowbird without a coupon in their hand. Isn't that right, Jerry? Oh, yeah, you get a free pizza night somewhere, two for one. Out comes the coupon, they go to the pizza shop. So we do the same thing. We have used this, and we catch a few with it. Radio and TV advertising is a rather slippery thing to work with. Right now we are starting with a concentrated program. We were rather fortunate. We had, this may sound sort of an oxymoron, we were fortunate one of our dancers passed away, but this is the fortunate part, we were sad to see him go. He left us money for advertising. He was that enthused about square dancing, he left us a considerable piece of money that we can use for advertising. We've gone to the local Western station and the local talk station. I've talked to them. We now have 50 ads in place for fall use. They provided the ad, and these are going to be aired during August, September. When you go to a radio station, be prepared to pay something. Square dance-wise, they will put you in their it's not a charitable thing, but it's a community program that all radio stations have, particularly in Canada. I don't know what it is down here, but they have to have a certain amount of community-oriented advertising. Public service is what it's called. You go in under that, you may get, as we have, you may get several $1,000s worth of advertisement for $300 or $400. And this is something you've got to be aware of. When you walk in, have money in your hand, but don't have a great deal. Tell them, well, this is what we've got. What can you give us? We're community-oriented. This is what we do. And we've had great success with that. We had an accidental thing happen, and sometimes advertising happens accidentally. We had one club celebrating 40 years of square dancing. And it was quietly advertised throughout the square dance world in our city, and the dancers were coming to it. And it was said, 40 years of square dancing, join us for a resume sort of thing, all this type of deal. We started in the beginning of square dancing, worked our way through up, sort of like last night, carried it into the future sort of thing. The TV station thought this was rather cute because these people have been dancing in Saskatoon. They got the idea, 40 years, my gosh. They came out and televised the whole thing from start to finish. What we didn't know until much later is they chopped that up, made a half-hour show out of it, and started showing it randomly when they didn't have anything else to put on the air. But they never informed us. We never got to a position where we catch up with them and say, when are you showing it? We'd like to put a little ad in there. We'll pay for it. So, again, sometimes you fall into something. We don't know whether we got dancers from it or not. We never had a dancer come back at our classes and say, hey, we saw that and we think it's great fun, because there was no place they could contact us from. We talk about starting classes. One of our callers started a program as a club, not as a class. And we have done this ourselves years back. And we looked at the clubs we called for. They were all class at one time. And most of you here, if you look at the clubs you're calling for, maybe started as a class. As we say, the most difficult part of training is to take them from that class into the club. But one thing we have found, our retention rate of our class members is pretty high. For one reason, we found that the longer they dance in class, the longer they will dance in club. As long as they have a place where they can dance comfortably and not be threatened, they will finally make that transition into the club. We encourage people to come back the next year. We don't try to push them into plus. When, matter of fact, in our city, we don't have a plus club. We have a strange situation because we have retirees that go south. And believe it or not, they come out as a mainstream dancer, go south and come back as a modified A1 dancer. The sad part is, and I'm going to take Mesa to task on this, they go down there and they take 10 lessons of plus, and they go out and they move into the A1 classes, and this, I think, is their choice. I don't think they're really pressured, but they're not encouraged to stay either. So they come back to us, and they've lost a good portion of their mainstream skills because in advance, we don't use the full mainstream, we don't use the full plus, we are teaching the A1, or we're calling the A1, and we may use square through, we may use swing through, we may use right and left through. We do it ourselves, because we go from the mainstream class with a little bit of workshopping of plus, and then we have, because of the demand of the snowbirds coming back, we have an A1 club and an A2 class or workshop group. It's really weird. We're hoping to maybe straighten that out in the future, but that's one of our problems in our area. One of our biggest successes in recruitment, and if you can do this, I guarantee you'll get a rather surprising result, because we sure did. The Safeway store in North Battleford, which doesn't mean anything to you, but you know Safeway, allowed us to take about 4,000 of their grocery bags, print a square dance message on the back of it, and allowed our dancers to come in one Saturday afternoon and bag. And they came in full costume, did the bagging, talked to the people, walked around the store, just advertised square dancing mouth to mouth, face to face, however you want to describe it. They also were allowed to put flyers in the grocery bag. And in 2 weeks later, we had our first class. We had 17 squares.
But that's 15 years
That's 15 years ago. Safeway has never allowed us to do it again. We don't know. We're not calling in that particular area. North Battleford is 90 miles north of Saskatoon, and things have changed. Society has changed. But that was one of our most successful ones. At the present time, what's going on? What are we doing? There's a handout which you'll get. In there, there's a placemat from a restaurant called Humpty's, which is a Canadian restaurant chain. We think this started in British Columbia. We're not sure. But Humpty's has been doing this now for 2 or 3 years, and it pops up in areas that we don't know why it pops up. Let's put it that way. They order a batch of things. We maybe get a phone call from Humpty's. What's your local square dance contact number? Out comes the flyer. Out comes the table mat. And there's a little. Have you got? It's at the back here. If you find it there, we'll just flash them at. Keep going. Keep going. There it is.
This ends the front side of your cassette.
So forth, and we've done some square dancing with them, but we never considered that they would ever think of doing a Western night. But this is a fundraising thing for the Philharmonic Orchestra. And we look at it, we know the people who are involved with that orchestra. It's money. There are people who are involved in our upper society in Saskatoon, and they're great supporters of anything that supports them. We said yes. We're happy to do this. So they're putting on a Western night out in we have what we call a Pioneer Museum, which is a great place to go back over history in our area. So we're going to do this. We don't know what's going to come of it, but we're looking forward to contact more of the business people in Saskatoon than we've ever been able to contact before. When we first started square dancing, those were the people that actually started square dancing in Saskatoon, were the business people. Why, I don't know, but that's exactly what happened. So now, we've got these dancers. How do we keep them? Well, this is going to be a little bit of an overkill because we believe in the same philosophy that Jerry does. Socializing is one of the things that we have lost in square dancing. As a traveling caller, which I do a bit of, I have been extremely disappointed to go out and do a special dance or even a club dance in another area from our area, go into the hall, and the only person in the hall is the president or the secretary or who's ever looking after lunch. They've come down, they've unlocked the hall, and they're puttering around. People start coming in the door. There's nobody there to greet them. Not a thing. They dance. They don't have any social breaks, and they go home. There's no coffee after the dance. Now, can you picture a colder atmosphere for a dancer to exist in, whether he's an experienced dancer or a newcomer? First of all, you yourself must be sociable. Get to know your class members by first names. Didn't he say that? Do I need to tell you again? They're not just people. They're not just numbers in your address book or your phone list. These are people with likes, dislikes, cares, just as you have. Maybe some nights you might even have to cry with them. We have. Encourage mixing. How often do you go into an area to dance and that same pat square is right down here on your right, and they never move? They square up, they're there. They don't attempt to mix. They don't use mixers in their programs. They ask you not to use them. We take in our area, and this is common in Saskatoon. If you come to dance with us, expect the caller there to say, after the patter call, swing your corner, go to a new square. You don't know your corner. You're brand new and you've come to visit us, and it's quite a shock. We've seen people go, "Huh," as if that person would, But we have had also these same people after the dance say, we're taking that back to our club. And to us, that's the greatest mixture that we have in our clubs. In our class, we do the same thing. We have seen within the class people form lifelong friendships.
But it's up to you to start that move. It's up to you to almost force them to be friends. Mixers are the greatest thing to even out your floor. As a caller, it's great. You get the poor dancer dancing with the good dancer. You get the angels in there dancing. It really spreads the, we call it camaraderie of square dancing. We also believe in a middle break during the evening, even if it's just a stop to have a glass of water. But don't use that break to philosophize. What a good word. Let them visit. We've also started in some of our clubs a joke session at that point. And my repertoire is rapidly increasing. We're getting a lot of good stories to spread around. But it's true. It's wonderful. At the end of the dance, we actually stop dancing between 10 and 10:15. We allow a half an hour for socializing, a small lunch, and coffee. And we don't make them leave. Sometimes I'll pack up my equipment and leave it sit on the stage. Other times I don't even bother. I'll wait till they go. Do it. Terry's trying to tell me to shut up. No. This is a big one as far as we're concerned. We do not force square dance attire on anybody. It grows. We do have, we're fortunate. We have a square dance shop in our house. We leave the door open. And you'd be surprised how the ladies find that door. You know, they peek in and they say, ooh.
I'll never wear that.
And then the first comment is, I'll never wear that. We're also finding that the Western dress, the long skirt, and the pretty blouses that go with it are becoming quite common in our area. Bill can tell you that. His wife looks absolutely gorgeous in the Western outfit she wears. The callers, our wives, are starting to wear them. Terry wears them once in a while. But in our home, when they're learning, we ask them only to wear a long sleeve shirt and a comfortable pair of shoes and a skirt. And a blouse, of course, girls. And that's exactly how we put it. They see that, and they come. We allow them to come in slacks. We never say anything. In the long run, they will find a costume that is comfortable for them. And that's really what we want, is to be comfortable while they're dancing. We encourage our dancers to dress the same way. Don't come out square dance-wise. We ask them to come out incognito. They're part of our class. But make sure that these people do not become teachers. There's nothing worse than having an angel reteaching something you teach and he's teaching it wrong. Anyways, many of the groups, we hold special acquaintance dances and so forth, but I turned the wrong page here. Thank you, dear. We're getting down to the end. Where are we at here? Thank you. She's going to give you some new pages.
Music.
Use good music. Use friendly music. Callers know what music people like, or they should. Particularly the first few nights. You know, we talk about the old-time music. That grates on people sometime, but there's new modern music out that people like, and music that you like. And I'm not going to attempt to even tell you what to use, but be careful on your music. Let the dancers enjoy each other as well as learn. You have to remember that we're teaching a skill that exists nowhere else. First of all, we're teaching a new language, but we're also teaching hearing and body coordination, and that's foreign to us. Most people learn eye and body coordination. I can't think of any other recreation that involves hearing and body coordination, and it's unique. And because of that, it's a whole new skill that has to be learned. It's almost like learning to walk and talk again. Be very careful how you respond to dancers from the mic. This is a deadly weapon. What you say in fun sometime can be very, very, very offensive. I've had it happen. And you never know when you've offended somebody until they don't come back. Keep track of their attendance. If someone misses, show concern. Phone them. Find out what happened. Don't be nosy, but just show some concern. Chat to them and remind them that they're coming to dance. Terry does a great job of this. I could not handle a beginner class alone. This is my PR. This is the girl that's on the floor. She doesn't like to hear that, but it's a fact. Greet them at the door. And she does a marvelous job of that while I'm getting ready to go. I come down off the stage. I'm off the stage probably 20% of the time I'm in the hall. But as I say, we also have a hall in our home where about 80% of our dancing goes on. So we have an edge. People come into our home and they know they're in our home. So we don't have to make believe that they're dancing in our home. And this is one of the things I find missing. The caller goes out to the hall. The personality changes. This is a hall. It's not my home. And they lose that home feeling. And believe it's there. It's there. If someone is ill, send them a card. We don't encourage executives in our classes. Although we have very few caller-run clubs in our city, they all have executives. We don't even talk about it. A lot of them people have a beginner class. The first thing you do is organize an executive. Most people don't want that. They learn soon enough about executives when and if they join the club. Have special parties for them. If there's a theme thing, it doesn't have to be much, but just give them a change of atmosphere. We also encourage our clubs, particularly our mainstream clubs, to have these people out for their Christmas parties. At that time, some of the callers who are also teaching may show up for a Christmas party. We firmly believe that when we're in a hall, that hall is our home, and we treat them as such. And we learned this from Nita Smith, Manning Smith's wife. Some of you will remember those two, a great couple. But that was one of their mottos. And it's a great thing when you do that. And in closing, I've already said that dancers are not our property. They are their own person with likes and dislikes. And all the things that make them and they're all the things that make them who they are. In many ways, they are like children. We bring them into the square dance world with bright, clean slates, almost like a child. We very carefully write on these slates some of the manners, someone in the manner like a mother or a father would do. We help to develop the love and the understanding of all that we believe in, same as we would with our children. And we believe in our recreation, and we show that belief. We must be careful that when we write on that slate, we create love and understanding of our recreation, not frustration and disappointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin. A couple of side comments, and I will take questions as well. One of the things that I missed when I started calling full-time was having clubs. I missed the club atmosphere. And one of the things that I dearly love about Mesa, Arizona is that no matter what anybody tells you, down there we are club callers, maybe on a bigger scale, but we're club callers. When I leave there in the spring, like last Friday night, that's hard on me. I miss those people, and I mean that sincerely. That is my personality. Not everybody feels that way. You have to be sincere as well. Insincerity shows instantly. So, you know, it happens to be my personality. Martin and Terry danced me on Thursday mornings down there. That's probably the friendliest A2 group you ever walked into, and I'm proud to say that, and I don't think they would disagree.
No.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. It's a fun.
It definitely does have the club atmosphere. When we go there Thursday morning, we see all our friends that are coming every morning along with us, and we feel as though we are part of that club, and that's the thing that we like about it.
Jerry hasn't kissed me yet, though. Jerry hasn't kissed me yet.
Ain't going to happen neither. So I miss Mesa, Arizona when I go. I sincerely do. I miss those people. They're a part of me. They can be a part of you. Marshall Flippo told me one time when I first started calling full-time, he said, you'll have to learn there's more to calling than being a caller. That's what we're talking about right here. Now, I'll come out on the floor if there are questions, and we want to put them on. This is Herb Egender.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
It is, isn't it? It is, I think.
Okay. I have always felt, and I still maintain, that the real heart of our square dance activity is the club caller. Of course, I'm prejudiced, having been one. But if it were not for the club callers around the country working their hearts out with classes and so forth, why, then the traveling guys wouldn't have anybody to call to. But many of those club callers, since they are club callers, work for a club, which has a president and a vice president and all that stuff. And over the years, a lot of years, in talking to callers that have taught classes, the main reason I have always heard why guys are teaching 15 weeks or 16 weeks or something is not because they aren't interested in their clients and so forth. It's because the club president has said, you'll teach 15 weeks, and if you don't want to do that, we'll find another caller. That's a prevalent problem, I think, always has been, and I think still is. And we are here telling callers about care for the clients, and I'm wondering if somebody's telling the dancers to have care for the clients, because that's still a problem.
The way I initially started this off, as I said, before the class ever starts, we first have to educate our club. And that's our leadership role as club caller, whether you're hired or not. Herb is exactly correct. I've had clubs tell me that. Hey, this is what we've got, and we've got finances for. And I've never told them that, no, I won't call for you then. But I'll say, well, we'll do these 15 lessons, and I'll do the rest of them on my own. It doesn't matter what I make. Oh, well, that'd be fine. And they'll do that. And also what Herb said is correct. Club callers are the most important people in the activity. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what traveling caller you talk to, me included. Club callers are the most important people in this activity. They are absolutely essential for the survival of it, and they're the ones that are the real caretakers of the activity and can show the most concern. They can know them the best. Okay? Any other questions? Any questions about what we said? I was a little harsh on callers, and I don't mean to be harsh. By the same token, I think we need to be a little more honest than maybe we've been.
Might I add to that, Jerry? Just in passing with what Jerry says, we have never had that problem because we educate our dancers from the start. That we train the callers. We make the decisions. We train the dancers, rather, pardon me. And our callers follow that. The dancer maybe sponsors the class, but it's up to us to tell them when they're ready. And if it takes 2 years, it takes 2 years. They will not dictate to us. They don't know that they can. So it's good.
I'm Vaughn Parrish. I've always said square dancing is never going to die around me. If they all move out, all I got to do is get 8 people together and I'll start it again. But I find it's harder and harder to get 8 people together anymore, but we still try.
I have to tell you a kind of a funny story that happened this year. Actually, this year has been our smallest beginner class that we've ever had, and we had I don't know if this mic is on or not, but anyway.
Yes, it is.
It was really hard to get people. We had people come, and they came and they said, "We'd love to do this. We'll do it when we are not as busy as we are." So we found. But anyway, this one couple, we had asked all the people that belong to our clubs, please bring one couple. We only ask you for one couple. That's all we ask you. Could be anybody. Just bring one. This couple had asked 3, and she was as pleased as she could be. She was high. on it. She said, she phoned and she said, you will never guess. I asked 3 couples, and they all said they were going to come. The night of the square dance, beginner class, 3 phone calls. Can't make it, one's sick, got to do this, couldn't come. So her and her husband are driving along, very upset that they didn't bring anybody. She said, stop the car. There's a couple walking over there. I'm going to go ask them. They'll come with us, I bet you, if I go ask them. But they didn't have the nerve to do it. She chickened out. But she was really disappointed. I just don't know.
One of the things I did, I had a singles club for many, many years in Norfolk, Nebraska, and I finally ran out of nights to do lessons. We always did lessons on a separate night. And we were losing a lot of people after lessons, which always concerned me. Not a lot of people, but more than I would care to lose. I ran out of nights, so I said, the only way I can do lessons for you guys is we've got to do it on your dance night. I don't know how that's going to work, but it's the only way we've got to do it. And you might think about this for yourselves. They dance Tuesday nights, this club, and still does, and I still call for them when I go home. But I said, we're going to have to do the lessons ahead. We need to start lessons at 7. You dance every other week. On the off weeks, when the club doesn't dance, we'll go 8 to 10:30 like we always do. But on dance night, then we've got to go 7 to 8:30, and you can't start your dance till 8:30. I'll still do you a 2.5-hour dance, but that's the way it's got to be. They went along with that, and we tried it the first year. I really had misgivings about it. However, it was the way I continued doing my lessons for years after. It accomplished 2 things. First of all, it allowed me to come and do the lessons where I wouldn't have been able to do them. But it was a much bigger benefit from the standpoint that during the year there was not a single club member that had not danced with these people at some time before the dance, or before they became graduated. After graduation, there were 2 things that happened. First of all, Tuesday night was the night they'd already set aside to square dance, so they didn't have to change from Tuesday to Saturday when they bowled and couldn't go square dancing anyway, and so we lose them. The second was, there was no club transition whatsoever. They knew everybody in the club. Wasn't a single person in that club they didn't know. Never lost anybody. I hardly lost any people after we did that.
Skip Cleveland from Cocoa, Florida. Jerry, I want to take that one step further. This is working great for us, and you got to have a club that'll work with you to do this. We were having a similar problem. By the way, I'm really pleased with our class we got this year. We have 3 students, and we're dancing them, and I'm glad to say that I feel privileged to pay $7 a week to teach them. Anyway, what they're doing, and we work together to do this, is as soon as I possibly can, we start our class at 7 and run it to 8, and that's the time that I teach. From 8 to 9, there's a joint class club dance. From 9 to 10 is the regular club level dance. And this starts right around basics. Now, you got to do your homework, because you got to call an interesting dance from 8 to 9 using what a lot of people consider limited material. I call it unlimited material, because everything you do is based on it anyway. But this is a program that is really working for us. It eliminates a whole lot of problems. That extra night that you're talking about for lessons, you get rid of that transition from the class to the club, because very soon, right at the very beginning, at 8 to 9, it's one club. It's no longer class and club. It's one club, and they're all dancing together. And it's working great.
Okay, notice, and again, this does go back to concern for our clients. Maybe we need to change a methodology that we approach our lessons with and our clubs with. Art?
You're Art Anthony from, where am I from? Rumford, Rhode Island. I'm just kind of backing up what you're saying. Many years ago, we had 35 clubs in Rhode Island. We had 25 mediocre callers, but the callers got better and better. And the better we got at calling, the worse we got at taking care of people. And we're now down to 8. And believe me, the people that are calling there are excellent callers. We don't have any of these klutzes. And that's a word that Earl Johnson used once. He said, we had a lot of klutzy callers. But they went out, got the people, took good care of them, and kept them. Well, now we're all good callers, but we're kind of klutzy at keeping people, and we've got to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
I like that way that sounds.
Yeah, I do.
More skilled we come.
Further questions? We're coming up to the hour. Martin, would you like to have a last little closing comment?
Well, I was just commenting on on what he says. It sounds like the more skilled we become in calling square dancing, the less skilled we become in teaching all the social skills that are necessary. If you look back at the early callers, they had very few tools to work with. They had to use, you saw it last night, they had to use the simple things to make people happy. And they learned how to handle people. They learned how to handle music. They learned how to get that smile on their face. And maybe we need to think about what we're doing. We don't have to call advanced. We don't have to call all the things that are out there. But we do have to call with a happy attitude. We do have to call and have fun. So, Jerry?
Okay. I'm gonna say one thing here. Herb and I are on the same plane too, I know. One of the things we've done at CALLERLAB that I hope I see a change, I've tried consciously to make a change myself, is that we've been so caught up in choreography so many years, we forgot the social side of the activity. We've become perfectionists at choreography, perfectionists at moving people from point to the point that that's our only focus. CALLERLAB has to take a little blame for that, but it's a natural evolution, because for 20 years we've made a real effort to try and make these lists workable, make a list that would standardize the activity. We've worked on definitions, we've worked on formations and arrangements to the point that that became our only focus, and we were so intrigued with it as callers that maybe a refocus on the social side of the activity would be a breath of fresh air for us. I don't think that's a criticism you can blame somebody for, but our whole activity has been caught up in trying to perfect the activity, and maybe we've been too good at it.
I think in our caller schools, in addition to doing the phasers and the sight calling, all it, we ought to take about 30 minutes and tell new callers, if you're just going to go in, set up your equipment and do a superb job of calling, close your equipment up and leave, get out of the business, because you're missing all of the fun if you don't do the social part of it.
Exactly. I'm going to conclude this at this point because we are out of time. Would you give Martin and Terry Mallard a really nice hand, please? And then,
don't forget to pick up your handout.
And then the other thing that, and I do this for every set of lessons, and we're seeing it in Mesa a great deal now. When people get done with the dance, they make a big circle and they say thank you. When you take a look around in this room and in this convention, take a look at the friends that square dancing has given you. That's where we need to look at. What's this activity done for us from the standpoint of friends, from the people that we've met, people that we've gotten to know? That's what our activity is really all about, and a little concern for our clients would do that. I sincerely thank you for being here and putting up with our dialogue here. I hope that you can take something home with you, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry.